defects, eye defects. This topic is relevant in physics, it's also relevant in biology. I'm going to be talking about the defects of the eyes, how you can correct those defects, that's the remedy, and let's go ahead. So, when we talk about eye defects, basically, these are the major eye defects that you have. You have myopia. Myopia, okay? Myopia is also called short sight. You can call it short sight or short-sightedness. Now, one way you can easily remember this myopia is this. When you say somebody is myopic in thinking, myopic in thinking means they cannot see or they can't think beyond the now. So when you see a person that is always thinking about now, they never think about tomorrow, okay? Those people are said to be myopic in thinking. So you can always use that to remember that myopia means not being able to see far distant objects. But they can only see very close objects. They can only see what is around now. Okay? So myopia is the ability to see close objects, but inability to see distant objects. So that is the first point you want to take note of. It is the ability to see close objects and not distant objects. Right? So that is myopia, ability to see close objects and not distant objects. So the question can ask you that what is wrong with the eyeball that is responsible for that? Is it that the eyeball is too long or the eyeball is too short, and what is the remedy? So what is happening in this phase is that for short-sightedness, so let me just give you a key. For short-sightedness, the eyeball is too long, all right, or too large. And what does that mean? So let me explain that for you. This is how the human eyes naturally looks like, okay? So in case you do not know, the human eye is not a perfect circle. It's not spherical, right? It has a bulge in front. And then there is a lens inside the human eye, and that lens is called the convex or converging lens. If you have not seen my video on lenses, you can check it out. So this is a converging lens or a convex lens. So when you have an image in front of the eyes, the light rays enters into this lens, all right? So I'm trying to show you what short-sightedness is, all right? So I told you that for short sight, the eyeball is too long. So now for lenses, when light rays enters a lens, it will refract. It's called refraction. Refraction means it will change direction. So when light enters from a medium to another medium, it changes direction. So the light was coming from air, and then it enters another medium, and so it will change direction. That's refraction. So it will bend towards the wider part of this lens, and therefore it will bend like this and bend like this, and then you have the image here. Now, for a normal eye, for a normal functioning eye, this image was meant to be formed on the retina. So let me first draw for a normal eyesight. So this is what you're supposed to have for a normal eyesight. For the eyes, this is called the retina. The retina is the inner layer of the eyes, and that is the part of the eyes that is sensitive to light. Alright, so when you stand and you're viewing an object, the light coming from the object enters the lens, and then it converges on the retina, and the image is formed on the retina. That is for the correct eyesight. But for this short sight, what now happens is that you have something like this, for short-sightedness. You have something like this. The light enters, and the convergence occurs in front of the retina, before the retina, unlike being on the retina. This is what you call short-sightedness. So for this eyeball is too long. Instead of it being on this spot, all right, it is longer. So for short-sightedness, the eyeball is too long, all right. So you say eyeball is too long, and because the eyeball is too long, the image is formed, all right. Image formed is formed in front of retina. So let's now talk about the remedy. What is the remedy for this? Very simple. Can you see this convergence here? We now look for how to push this light rays from this point and move it forward. So the correction, the remedy that is done is to look for a lens that will push this light forward and make it to get to the retina, and that is the diverging lens or concave lens. So you use a diverging or concave lens so that by the time so let's draw a diagram again. By the time I now introduce a diverging or a concave lens, this is a concave lens, okay? When light enters, light rays enters like this, light tends to move towards the wider part of the lens. All right, this part is wider than the center, so that is a push. So it pushes the light rays, all right, into the lens of the eye. And then of course, when the light rays enters into this lens, okay, when it enters, it has now gotten a push, and then it will make the object to now fall on the retina. And that is how to correct short-sightedness using a concave lens. So the remedy for short sight is to use a what? A concave or a diverging lens. I hope that is clear. So if you come back here, I said myopia, it is the ability to see close objects and not distant objects. So another point is that the eyeball is too long. All right, image is formed in front of the retina. And finally, remedy. What's the remedy? What's the correction? It is corrected using a diverging or concave lens. I hope that is clear. So using a diverging or a concave lens, that is what you use to correct short-sightedness, which is also called myopia. I believe that is clear. The next thing we talk about is hypermetropia, which is long-sightedness. Hypermetropia. Now the second eye defect that we talk about is called hypermetropia. Not hypermyopia, hypermetropia. So hyper, when you say hyper in biology or in science, it means too high. When you say hypertonic solution, the concentration is high. When you say hypertension, that is the blood pressure is high. So when you say hypermetropia, it is also called long-sightedness. And how do we define hypermetropia? It is the ability to see only distant objects and not near objects. So in this situation, a person can see distant objects, objects that are far away, but they cannot see objects that are close. And why? You remember, for short sight, the eyeball is too long. This time around, for long-sightedness, the eyeball is too short. So we say the eyeball is too short. The eyeball is too short. And then what next? Image is formed behind the retina. And then what will now be the correction? Let's see. So I drew a diagram of the normal eyesight. So let's see a diagram of the defective eyesight, and then we will now see how the correction is made. So this is when the light rays enters into the eye. All right, it enters, and then it enters and then it moves, and then you have the image being found behind the retina. This is what you call long-sightedness. So look at it, image formed behind the retina. Why? Because the eyeball is too short. So the eyeball is short. Okay, eyeball is too short, and that is why. So can you see the eyeball stops here, but the image is at the back? So because of that, we need to correct it using a converging lens so that it can. So it's like the intensity of the ray of light is too much, and that's why it's getting beyond the eyeball. So we need to compress that intensity before it even enters the eyes, and that is why we are going to be making use of a converging lens. So it is corrected using a converging lens. So you are going to introduce a converging lens here. So when the light rays enters here, all right, it bends, okay, it converges as it enters into the eyes. So as it converges, it has already reduced the intensity of the light, and so when it eventually gets to the lens inside the eye, okay, the light rays will just fall and end on the retina. So that is what happens. That is what happens. Okay, the light enters there and the image is formed on the retina. So that is the correction. So the correction for hypermetropia is that the remedy is what? Remedy is to make use of a convex or converging lens. A convex or converging lens. So that is the solution to hypermetropia. So we are going to look at two other eye defects, right? The third is presbyopia. Presbyopia. And what is presbyopia? I'm going to give you a key. Can you see this O? So this presbyopia, this biop, let me just give you a key. Just say is by old people. So presbyopia is that kind of eye defect that happens in older people as they age. As people age, the lens in the eye becomes weakened. Are you with me? By age. So for people that are already getting over 60s, 70s, they are prone to having this. Why? Because the lens in the eye is weakened. Because the lens is supposed to contract and relax. There is something called accommodation. Accommodation is the ability of a person to adjust the focal length of the lens inside the eye to be able to see close objects or distant objects. If you want to see an object that is far, you see that there's a way you try to strain your eye to be able to see. And then if you're seeing at a normal distance, there's a way you do your eye. Then when you bring an object close, there's a way you also shrink your eye. So your ability to shrink the eye is what they call accommodation, ability to adjust. So what happens to these people is that lens, the ability to adjust the focal length of the lens is not there because of aging. So that accommodation is not possible. So presbyopia, the key is by old people, okay? And it's as a result of age. So we say it is an eye defect caused as a result of aging. The lens in the eye loses its ability of accommodation. And because of that, that's how its ability to contract and to enlarge, okay, to be able to accommodate light. So that is presbyopia. One remedy, one way it can be remedied is by surgery, majorly, okay. And then the fourth is astigmatism. Astigmatism. And what is astigmatism? It is just a kind of eye defect as a result of alteration of the curvature of the lens in the eyeball. So distortion in the curvature of the lens in the eyeball. So the shape of the convex lens in the eye has been altered, okay? It's been distorted, and because of that, it's affecting the image that is formed in the eye. So distortion in the curvature of the lens. Where you see anything that has to do with curvature of the lens, that is astigmatism. Okay, so those are the four major types of eye defects. I want to believe you understood all that we discussed, and this astigmatism can also be corrected by surgery. Thank you so much for being a part of today's class. If you enjoyed the class, do well to drop a comment in the comment section. You can also ask questions. But before I go, let me ask you this question. What do you call the ability of a person to be able to adjust the focal length of their eyes, to be able to see distant object or far object? Please type the answer to the question in the comment section. Share this video with your friends. If you need me to do a video on any other topic, you can put it in the comment section. I'll be back to do the video for you. Thank you very much, and bye for now.